Alright guys, today we're gonna install a 2.5 inch leveling kit on my 2012 F-150 EcoBoost. I got this leveling kit from Amazon. I'm not even really sure who I got it from. It's a MotoFab 2.5 inch leveling kit. We'll open this guy up here. See here, seems pretty nice. It's coated, comes with 2 of those and the hardware, and then I've already pulled the instructions out here. I thought that this was going to be an easier deal than it was, but this is the second time I've attempted. Finally got my impact wrench here, so we'll go ahead and start by taking that tire off, and then we'll proceed to the next step. The whole idea of the leveling kit is to bring this strut down. And so the leveling kit, it's actually an 1.5 inch block spacer, and that'll bring it down. And the way it'll come down, it'll actually add 2.5 inches to the suspension. So we're going to start up by taking off these 3 bolts up here. They're a 15mm socket at the top of the upper strut mount, I guess you'd call it. And then we'll move on by taking the lower link of the sway bar, and it connects under here. We'll actually disconnect that, and then we'll move on to the next step from there. But this one's a little tricky to get to, especially in this back place here. Sometimes you got to use a wrench depending on how much room you got, or just your normal ratchet. Now when you're doing this, after you got the first bolt up a little ways, you're going to want to leave it attached. Don't take it off all the way. That's going to allow you time before you take out that last bolt and the whole thing falls down. Okay, now that we've got those 3 bolts, except for those last one, I'll take that one off here in a minute. We're going to want to get under here. We're going to want to pull this one off here. And this one can be kind of a pain sometimes, where it'll just sit there and spin at times. I'm hoping with my impact wrench we can actually just pull it right off. Guys, I forgot to mention originally, always put a jack stand up. That way, if something does happen, you're not getting hurt. Obviously, it's not worth it. So this is why I left this last bolt up here. When I unhooked the lower link of the sway bar, it actually came off just fine with the impact wrench. If your truck's a little bit older, or it's getting rusty, you're probably going to need to work with that or put some penetrating oil on there. When I undid that, it's when this whole unit dropped down. And so that's why I left this last bolt up here, just to avoid it from dropping down too far and stretching, your brake line, your ABS sensor, all that stuff. We really don't want to be doing any damage, of course. So we'll undo this last bolt, and then what I'll do here is actually put a jack underneath the rotor or underneath the lower control arm, and just to hold that up without it stretching out. Next thing we're going to do here, I've got this jack just holding this up. It's not jacked up at all, it's just putting pressure on there. We're actually going to undo the tie rod link right here. It's a 21mm socket, and once we undo that, at times this can be difficult coming out of the socket there. So you're going to hit with a ball peen hammer or something, put a piece of wood, put something in between there to where you're not damaging this nor penetrating the boot here. The boot, keeps the soil, keeps the dirt, any grime or anything that's going to wear that down in there out. So be careful not to sever that boot, and you should be just fine. I'm going to use an impact wrench. Hopefully it doesn't spin at all. If it does, this is actually a hex bolt pattern. You can put a socket on the bottom and then work it with a normal wrench if you need to, but we shouldn't have to. Something I would recommend doing is, before taking this all the way off here, actually just thread it on there just to where it's a little bit less than flush with the bolt beneath it. As you can see how it sticks down. Thread it on there a little bit, just where you're not going to be hitting that, and then actually take your hammer from there and just give it a little whack. And then that'll break loose just like that. And as you can see, that just pops right out of there. And then you can go ahead and take this nut off of here, and then that'll pull out, and just set that out of the way. Some people like to just grab a bungee cord and just hold that up out of the way. That way we're not damaging or pinching this boot here. I'll actually get a bungee cord here and we'll tie that up. Okay, we got our bungee here. Just gotta find a place to hook it up. Probably hook it up under here somewhere. And then just need to get a tripod, obviously, and get that thing hooked up and just out of our way here. Here we go. Perfect. Just hold that out of our way. All right, we'll move on to the next. Okay, this is where we need to actually be careful. So the next step, if I can find my socket here. The next step is going to be to unhook this this upper ball joint. And I believe it's a 21. Yeah, it's a 21 millimeter socket here. Once you undo that, then to get that to release, we're going to actually want to hit the steering knuckle here, and then we'll be able to drop that down. Now this is where it becomes very important not to overextend the CV axle or any of these lines, the brake lines, anything like that. So what we're going to do is, this is when I originally says you can tie it up, you can use a piece of tie wire, tie it up somewhere, or what I like to do is just put this jack underneath here just to hold it slightly, and then you can let it down and adjust it to where you need to put it, and you're not worried about bungee cord or the tie wire getting in the way in the future. So we'll go ahead and grab the impact, and we'll undo that, and then like I said, we're going to hit right here on the steering knuckle and pop it out. Again, it's going to be very important that this is supported under here at some point. I probably should resituate that, but to undo this upper ball joint here. For this one here, I recommend getting some kind of joint for your impact driver. That way you're not messing with any of the lines down here, and then we'll be able to pull that off easier, and we're not risking damaging any other components. Alright, now I've got that pulled off. I'm going to take my hammer that I've set over here. Take it, give it a little tap. And then I'll actually tap down on this one here. I forgot to loosen up my jack there. And we'll just give that a little tap again and we'll be able to pull right off. Alright, so we're tapping on that. What I had to do here, I actually tapped here on the steering knuckle, and then I also had to tap up on the ball joint here. And now I'll take my jack and just actually lift this up just a little bit, pull this guy down and undo this nut here, and if I can work it just right, there we go. Pull that up. Okay, now we've got that undone. What we're gonna do is you're gonna want to move this a little bit forward, otherwise it's gonna come down, it's gonna overextend and stretch these. I've still left this connected up here. This side here, we're gonna undo the bottom strut mount here. This side here is a 30 millimeter socket, and then this one is a 27, I believe. What we're gonna do is you're gonna need an impact driver, and you want to undo this side while you hold a breaker bar or something on this side to hold that stable. So we'll grab our impact driver, and we'll actually just pull that guy off, and then when we lower this whole unit down a little bit, we should be able to slip the spacer in there, and then we'll get to
so after
reassembly. Some wholesome persuasion, I was able to get that big guy out of here. It didn't just come off with the impact. Maybe my impact's bad or my air compressor's not enough, but I was able to use a breaker bar and break that loose. So what we got to do next here, now I've actually undone that top, that upper strut mount, that last bolt, and now the whole strut is loose in there. What we got to do is actually take the strut, here if I can get a better angle here, take it and actually rotate it 180 degrees. And what that's going to do is offset these upper strut mount bolts, because on the actual spacer, as you can see right now, it would be sitting like this. They're actually going to rotate it so that this will bolt into the top of the upper strut mount. And so right now what we're going to do is lower this jack down here. If I can do it one-handed, I really should invest in a proper tripod. I'm going to let that down just a little bit, not too far. Then we'll take this, and I'll probably have to grab something down in here and pry it up, and then we'll just rotate it from there, and then you can see how we... Alright, we got this out of there. We're actually just going to twist it 180 degrees to where it's sitting like that. And then what we're going to want to do is slip this back in there, or probably put the spacer on there first and then slip it back in there. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we pulled the whole strut out, we rotated it 180 degrees like here, and then we're going to actually take the hardware they've given us, put them on those studs, torque them down, and then we'll actually insert this up in there, and I'll show you guys how to do that. The bag of hardware they gave us here is actually appears to be pretty good stuff. So we're gonna put that in each one of these. It's a 15 millimeter. We'll put them on there. We'll torque them down, and then we'll slip this guy back up in there, and we'll be set to go. As you guys can see, I've actually taken that bungee and I've hooked it onto here, just to hold this from pulling these real tight. You know, it's up on the jack, but this whole unit wants to sway back and forth here, like it'll move back and forth like this. And so I really wanted to hook that on there just to be sure. I don't want to be costing myself any more money anyway. Many of you guys might ask how much this leveling kit cost. You can find them as cheap as, I don't know, 35 bucks on Amazon. I went in and spent just a little bit more money. I think this one ended up costing me 60 bucks. Still, it's really nothing. If you want to hire it done, I priced it out with the camber, I guess the camber adjustment or the front end alignment or whatever they recommend doing. They were wanting to charge about 200 to 250 bucks. Of course, that's here in Idaho. Things might be more expensive or cheaper where you live. You know, price it out if it's not worth your time. This really only takes about maybe an hour and a half, depending on how hard or how rusted your bolts are. I made a mistake. These nuts here are actually 17 millimeter nuts, not 15 like I said previously. I've got those all torqued down, and then we'll actually go ahead and we'll put this, we'll slip it back up in there. Again, it's very important that we rotated this strut 180 degrees. I don't know if you can tell very well in the video, but this is not a perfect triangle. The two, I guess, attachment points, I'm drawing a blank on the wording right now, that are closest are actually in the back. There's a bigger space between these two than these two here. And so the two closer ones are actually facing the back of the vehicle. And so when we slide it up in there, we're going to want to slide it in, rotate it 180 degrees. Alright guys, right here is where I actually lost some of the footage, actually the last part of putting on that spacer and slipping it up in and reassembling everything. The reassembly is quite easy, you know exactly how to put it together if you've taken it apart. Guys, please like